Good morning, guys. Today we have Jennifer Kauffman. Jennifer is a good friend of mine. We met at Thought Leaders Conference. She's a business consultant, Amazon best-selling author, and she won a Telly Award and also an Emmy Award. And there's a lot of credentials, not just the awards, but also she's well-versed in innovation and technology. She has a master's degree in it, and she also has a bachelor's degree in sciences. So the way we connect with people was totally different in given circumstances. And first time when I met you, we discussed about the Boston Marathon. Mm. And that was the point we were like, what is it? Like, there is something I need to learn from this person. That's how I got talking to you. And then I just get to learn. So thank you so much for being here today, Jennifer. So tell us, what are you doing now?
Well, thank you for having me, Krishna. It's a pleasure to be with you here this morning. What am I doing now? We are in the midst of a pandemic, as you know, and it's been interesting times. For me, what has been miraculous is that it's been a time to reflect, a time to bring forth projects that I've been thinking about doing for 6 to 12 months now. But it's really also been a great opportunity to look at my life and assess, what areas of my life really, what do I want to take forward? What do I want to take forward, and what kind of life do I want to create now that we're going through this experience? I don't think any of us would have thought that we would be in a situation where our economies have been temporarily shut down. Our ability to be able to move about has been limited for obvious reasons. And so what do you do? What do you do when you're in that state? For me, it's been such an opportunity to really reflect on what matters most to me and what is it that I want to bring forth going forward, and how can I be the solution to rising up from this. Mm-hmm. So that's been, and so projects, I've been working on projects to pull forth. But here's the other thing. I love live events. I love to teach. I love to coach people, but I predominantly love to do it live. In this, in the times that we're in, hasn't been possible. So it's really pushed me outside my comfort zone and to start to embrace digital media and doing things virtually, and it's been fun in the process.
Yeah, it's life changing, but the word life changing isn't new to you, right?
No, it's not.
So tell us about your Boston Marathon experience. I mean, I heard this, from you, and also watched you on CBS and other interviews you were part of. How did life change for you?
Life changed in a matter of an instant for me. Leading up to the marathon, literally life I thought was really great for me. I had just come off my best year of business, helping all of my clients create breakthroughs for themselves and their companies. And I had been longing to write my first book for several years. And I finally pulled the trigger, and I hired a publisher to work with me. All of this happened just, months before the bombings happened. And in a matter of a second, my life went to being this place that I really loved and enjoyed to wondering if I was going to live to see another minute of another day. And that experience, like all the joy that I was experiencing prior to that, was gone in an instant. Had tremendous fear, tremendous, just not knowing, like, what is life about? And I was really in this, like, what is life about? And that experience ultimately led me to losing everything. Everything that I once really knew and loved was gone. And I felt hopeless and felt despair, and frankly, to the point of not wanting to live. And yet something kept me in the game. Something kept me going. And over time, and it took time, over time, I realized that that experience, as horrific as it was, actually was a big blessing and a gift in my life, because it helped bring me home. The truth is, I had been searching outside of myself for success, for validation, for love, for any of those things. But I had to learn how to love myself through that process. And, and so it completely changed the trajectory of how I lived and how I operate on a day-to-day basis. And the irony here is that it literally took me from a barely surviving state to a thriving state, all because of finding the love within me and recognizing there was nothing I needed to prove anymore. I could just be me.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? Like when you be yourself and just radiating love.
Yeah.
And the care. And I think, you're very compassionate. Like when I shared my personal story and, we talked about it. And I think, certain people come into your life just to give you those nuggets. And that's one of those moments for me. So thank you. So when you're in that moment, what were you thinking? Like, you were very close, the bombs exploded, and you were like, oh my God, what just happened?
I'll be honest, I felt like I was instantly in a horror movie. Like it did not seem real. Because literally in a matter of a second, the crowd was electrified in cheer. There was, there was music in the background, the announcers are announcing, and everyone is elated because they're seeing their loved ones coming towards the finish line to finish, right? And then, the first explosion goes off, and literally we're talking tens of thousands of people lined in a small proximity in downtown Boston, and you hear this loud explosion. For me, I instantly thought it was a gas explosion, because I could feel this reverberation coming from behind me, and I thought it was coming out of the building that I was standing in front of. And it wasn't until, a few seconds later that I realized, actually, that's not what this is. And then the next bomb went off. And that's when I realized it was a terrorist attack. For me, everybody responds differently. In that moment, something kicked into gear, and I knew I had to get my friend and I out of that situation. And so I wasn't even aware that I was injured. I was just hyper vigilant on getting us out of there alive. And my friend, on the other hand, actually froze. And we were waiting for her son, who was approaching the finish line, to come across when all of this happened. And of course, like any parent would, she was like, I'm not leaving here without my son. But there was actually no way in that moment to reach her son. And so I had to literally drag her out of there. And I made a promise to her. I said, I will reunite you with your son. Whatever it takes, I will reunite you with your son. I had no idea how I was going to do that, but I also knew that we needed to get out of harm's way. And so, my instincts just kicked into gear. Something, came over me, and I just got into action mode. And it wasn't until 45 minutes later that I realized I was seriously injured. And then I ended up in the ER later. But, life doesn't end. Nobody expects to be at a sporting event and have something like that happen, so it didn't seem real. And at the same time, it was real. So I don't know how to put it into words. It is what we experienced and observed no human being should ever have to experience. Why do people do this? Of course, that's a common question. And it was a question I had, like, why would two, young adults do this to innocent people that they don't even know. I later learned that these two young men grew up in a city, in a town where bombs laden their city on a frequent basis. And so their experiences growing up where, you know, bombs were being dropped left and right, and they didn't know if they were going to live to see another day. And, you know, obviously they were angry. They were upset about what happened. There's a phrase, hurt people hurt people. Unfortunately, they didn't get the help that they needed to deal with that horrific experience. So they turned towards violence. Why? I don't really understand why, but I think for some people it's to have power, to have some sort of meaning. You know, it doesn't quite make sense, but at the same token, when things happen, I believe we have an opportunity to rise up from it better, or we do not rise up from it and we become bitter. These two young men, their experiences of their growing up, they turned bitter. And I'll be candid, you know, in the early days of my recovery, Krishna, I was dealing with my own anger and own rage because my life as I knew it was gone. Everything had been, it was like somebody pulled the rug out from underneath me. I didn't ask for that. It just happened. So of course, I had my own anger and rage. And frankly, I used to fantasize about killing both of them with, you know, with my own bare hands because my life had been so turned upside down. In those dark moments of my recovery, I was like, who is this person? I don't even know who you are.
Yeah, you know, nobody's immune to the darkness. You know, it does exist, and we all get affected by it at some point in life, like one way or other. There's no escape from it, and we make choices based on who we are. And I think that's in our DNA, and that's what protects us. And I believe in it. That's what gets people out of the pain and the trauma, right? Like in your case, you experienced some form of like PTSD and you're going through the pain and you just didn't know, like everything that you knew that day was just taken away, like in an instant, and you had to recover from what you're going through, which how it's going to look like. It's almost like the COVID situation right now, right? Like nobody knows what's going to happen, but in your case, that's for you and very personalized, and you're very close to that trauma. So tell us about how did you come out of that? Like, you know, you were at the hospital and doctors couldn't tell what's going on, but you depended on a lot of natural ways of healing yourself. And that is where a lot of self-discovery happened to you at a much higher level, not just being a business consultant, but as a person who you are.
Yeah, so I had an experience in the hospital, which was odd for me. It was several hours in, they had doctors and nurses were doing all kinds of tests on me. And you can imagine my hospital room was filled with doctors and nurses almost the entire time I was there. But there were a few moments when the majority of them had left my room to go check on my test results. And I heard this voice inside say, you need to learn how to heal naturally. And it was one of those, where is this coming from kind of voice. And yet there was something about what was being said that I felt I needed to listen to. Now at the time, my background is all in business, all in finance. I have no medical background. I have no knowledge on homeopathic medicine at this point in time. I have no knowledge or proof that you can even heal naturally from the kind of trauma that I had physically endured. And yet as my visit at the hospital continued, my experience there was also traumatic. And I don't want to get into that because I do believe that the doctors and nurses were doing the best that they could. And it just, you know, I didn't know if I was going to live to see another minute of the day, and that's not how I wanted to spend my last moments. If that's you know, what's going to happen. So fast forward, that thought of learning how to heal naturally never left me after that message in the hospital. And lo and behold, people started showing up in my life that would take me on a journey on self-discovery and learning how to heal naturally, 100% naturally. Now that took 4 years for me to do that. But I learned different modalities and different techniques that I never even knew existed in some cases. In other cases I knew existed, but I was skeptical of them. Okay. But in the moment, I surrendered to what God showed me in my life as to, my own journey.
That's amazing. I'm glad that you experienced that. And like pain has been a catalyst for many of us. And that's where the self-discovery starts and the right people start showing up. I know you're a Jack Canfield certified trainer. And I also, learn from the website, like you do practice a lot of self-healing techniques that you use and teach and speak. A lot of people doesn't get to experience any of those. Like you said, they just don't know these exist. And even introducing them to certain techniques, do I believe in that? But I think, it all comes from the surrendering point of view, and then say, okay, I'm going to accept it what it is. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to heal. And it all has to come out of love. It's not like you're doing something to hurt somebody or cause anything else. It's just about, I love myself and my life is a divine gift. And how can I serve people in this life? And what are the tools that are available? I think people will be really fortunate to work with you on any of these things. And, from the healing prospect, or even looking at their business too. So they get like a whole package.
Well, I think our business is only as good as we are, right? I've worked with, lots of businesses over the years. And I've predominantly worked with small and mid-sized companies. And one of the things, I observe often is that people are working really hard. And I used to be one of those people, let's be clear. And, I'm continuing to evolve in my own journey of how do I continue to work smarter, not harder? How do I continue to have a full life? Because life isn't only about our work. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's a key component of what we do, but it's not the end all be all. And some people in their businesses spend a lot of time in those businesses. I think there's more to life than that.
Mm-hmm. It's a gift. I would just put it that way. And you get to share this in your book, Amazon bestselling book, Shatter. It's on Kindle, and just go on Amazon and get a copy of it. So what was your message through the book?
So the essence of the book is it's showcasing what is possible. So I had to trust myself in really vulnerable situations over the so-called experts, right? Those experts could be my mom, it could be, my siblings, my doctors, my practitioners. What do I mean by that? I always had to be true to me. And so if somebody was suggesting something for me, I had to check in. Did that feel right? And if it felt right, then I would proceed with it. If it didn't, that was an indicator for me to speak my truth and, and either adjust with that, with that doctor or practitioner and to move forward, or to not. So the essence of the book is about my journey, but it's really taking people on their own journey of finding themselves and finding their own way to take the shattered pieces of your life. Here's the reality. We have all been through hard times, right? We all have. We've lost loved ones. We've had divorce. We've had illnesses. We've had all kinds of stuff happen in our lives. Not anyone is immune to it. Now, not everyone has had a terrorist attack. I hope to God that remains that way, and that we can find a way to not do that to each other. But here's the key. How do we take the best pieces and stitch it together and to move on and create a beautiful mosaic? Now, in the Japanese culture, when something breaks, rather than throw it away and look at it as bad and broken, they put it back together with gold, and they actually cherish it more. And I became aware of that, teaching that they teach after the bombings. I had no knowledge of that. And it was such a lesson for me, because it gave me the freedom to take the shattered pieces of my life and put it together to where I am today. I'm not perfect, and but I can be perfectly imperfect. It reminds people of our humanity. It also, there's tools in the book. I talk a lot about the different modalities and the different things I learned how to heal, so people can see what resonates for them. And I also talk a lot about forgiveness, and also staying true to what your heart's desire is, even when other people don't think it's in your best interest. I'll give you a quick example. So I am not a long distance runner. I know you are. I am not. My idea of running is behind a white ball, a soccer ball, a volleyball, a softball. And so long distance running for me was not something I ever enjoyed. But when I was in meditation and praying about what's it going to take for me to come full circle on my journey of this experience, the message I got was I needed to run the marathon. And I was like, hell no, I don't want to run the marathon. And I'd go back and I'd meditate some more and pray some more. And it was like, and I'd ask the question and I'd get the answer. You need to run the marathon. And I didn't like the answer. But B, that was the answer. And when I chose to embark on that journey, my doctors, and I was working out with a trainer at the time to get my physical strength back, all said to me, you are not in the physical condition to do a marathon in 5.5 months, but you could set yourself up to do one in 18 months. I kept getting the message that I needed to do the marathon in 2017, not 2018, which was 5.5 months after I got that message. So to everyone else, including me at the time, it did not seem possible. But I kept meeting people along that journey who would help me fulfill on my heart's desire to come full circle and cross that finish line. And lo and behold, I did. It wasn't easy, and it was a lot of grueling training, and I wouldn't give it up for the world, because the moment I even approached the finish line, what was so miraculous was that my family and close friends were standing in the very spot I was in 4 years before where the bombings took place. Oh, so now I have a brand new image in my memory of that place. It's no longer the first, when I think of the marathon, I no longer think of the memories of the day of the bombing. I actually think of the memories of 2017 when I came full circle and ran that marathon. And when I crossed that finish line, I've never looked back. It's as if that chapter of my life was closed and something within me was like, there was a rebirth that happened. And so I say, it's a very long-winded way of saying anybody can do, if I can do that, anyone can do that. So whatever people are experiencing right now with COVID, like I promise you, like just get clear with yourself. What is it that you want? What is it you really desire? And go pursue that.
Totally. The shift in the mindset is like huge. And I think, a lot of people teach about like the manifestations and whatnot to recreate those memories. So you go back and, attack it with a new mindset and you just conquer it, right? Isn't that beautiful? Just switching that memory from the bombing state to like your family just cheering for you. It's just
it literally, there's a video of me. When I saw them, I literally leapt up in the air, like literally jumped up into the air and did this major fist pump. And I was cheering, like I'm already getting chills because I'm like, remembering it. It was like, it was miraculous. It was amazing. And I don't even know how to articulate it. It was so powerful.
But you know, with your life, it's just like one thing after other. Okay, you discover yourself, and you know, you healed and you teach, but you want to even create like a bigger impact, and that is where you start involving with creating good films, like the Canine Warriors. The documentary basically talks about the soldiers return home that develop some PTSD issues and whatnot, and what we can do about it, right? So you have been inspiring all along the way. So tell me about the Canine Warriors movie, uh, and you got involved in the documentary, and can you share the experience and the cause behind it?
Absolutely. So that is another miracle. So I was introduced to the opportunity to produce the Canine for Warriors documentary actually at the Thought Leaders Summit with Nick Nanton. And what was so miraculous was, here I am for the first time. And I was there because I had written about my story in Jack Canfield's book, Mastering the Art of Success. And, I was there to receive the award. And then this opportunity presented itself as a give back, is to help people, veterans in particular, who are struggling with PTSD, helping them to rise above that. And the Canine for Warriors organization, nonprofit organization that not only rescues veterans, but rescues dogs. So they rescue dogs, they train them for 9 to 12 months to become service dogs. And many of those dogs then get matched with a veteran who's dealing with PTSD or traumatic brain injury, and their lives transform in that connection. Mm-hmm. And so the film talks about how that transformation happens. And the film is a new leash on life, and it's so perfect because, here the dog is saving the veteran, and yet the veteran is saving the dog. It's such a beautiful message. And what was so profound is that these men and women, their lives have forever been changed and transformed through this, through the pairing of a canine dog. And it's miraculous to witness, because these are people that were struggling to get back into normal civilian life, and are now, several of them are thriving today. Some are still on their journey, but their lives are still better than it was when they first returned back from war. So I couldn't be, I never could have imagined that I would go through a terrorist attack and then a few years later be given an opportunity to produce a film near and dear to my heart. Nobody should have to suffer with PTSD, is my belief. And so there are different types of ways that people can rise above that. And this is one of them. And I'm just grateful and honored to be a part of that film. And as a result, more lives are being saved and more dogs are being saved.
Isn't that amazing? You certainly have a gift to inspire people and heal them along the way, and helping them to find the self-discovery process. Thank you, Jenny, for spending some quality time with us today. And even you want to create a bigger impact and serve, and that's where the films come from. And thanks for sharing about Canine Warriors' new leash on life story as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.